So I thought I'd make a video. I'm watching some wonderful channels about education, about medical school, which there's not any doubt in my mind. I know I could when I was younger. I mean, I know if I was in good circumstances, but I have to make a whole video on that. But it was taken away from me a long time ago. As I go through this, I cannot go to school unless I get the financial aid, meaning I have to pass the test, the reading and writing and mathematics. I don't know how difficult it is. Apparently, it's like 3 or 4 hours long. It's a pretty drenching, difficult test. The mathematics, I'm fresh I'm fresh out of testing out of the GED, so hopefully I make high enough grade. I don't know, but it's supposed to be 3 or 4 hours, so it's pretty intense. But I hope that I can get granted, because if I get granted, I don't have to worry about financial aid. I don't have to worry about finances when it comes to education in school, because I don't have any money for school. That's the first thing I said when I got there. I said, I don't have any money. I don't have any money for school at all. I don't mean that like I'm saying it like I don't even have money for me. So let's just say the Lord blesses me and I pass, and I'm going to start a certification of something. They're shooting something right now in my mouth, and it's tingling. And for those that don't know, I gave my mother a rosemary of Jesus Christ and the Virgin Mary. And I said, and I gave this to her because there were a bunch of pearls. And it was like, and I told her, in the sea, you have a shell. And every time they open their mouth, only good comes out. And it's a pearl, right? Most of them, I think, develop pearls. And they're pearls, and they're supposed to be prized possessions, right, from the sea. It goes along with the ships. It's Jesus, right? So that's why they're making my mouth tingle. They're training me. Anyway, as far as these classes go, now as I watch these videos, it brings a lot of memory. I mean, it falls right into the lines of what I saw and what I heard. Some of them, they do deal with way too much. Can I work as a CNA in a nursing home? No. I don't think I could work in a nursing home that repetitive. And the pay rate is supposed to be way 10 times better. But getting the idea to work with nurses sounds really good. And but I think that they deal with way too much. The extent, I mean, I think, in my opinion, you're really underpaid. And I've heard a lot of horrible situations. You know, I saw this firsthand. I didn't get any training. I didn't wipe my dad's ass, but I saw that horrific stuff of my dad disabled when I was very young. And I saw, like, my dad in diapers. When I was a kid, my dad went to, like, my 6th grade parent-teacher meeting, and he showed up in diapers on my first day of school. Like, in diapers. You could hear him wearing diapers. I mean, with my mother. This is, when you talk about humility, like, your dad is like a hero and all. This is what I had to experience when I was 12 years old. And anyway, so they experience a lot, man. I mean, I know that they, dealing with death and people that don't have much time left. I mean, I don't know how they deal with it, the nurses, because the CNAs, they walk into a room and they occasionally walk into a room and they'll find a patient dead, deceased. And then they have to deal with that. And, but there's a large field, to my understanding, even in the research I've done and what I've experienced, that CNAs don't just work in nursing homes and doing that. Most of them do, but there is the possibility, you can work in an emergency room CNA. There's different departments where it won't primarily just be focused on that. You'll be focused more on some other stuff, Now, there is There is the EKG, which is technician, with the electrocardiograph technician. That sounds pretty appealing too. If let's say if I pass the test, right, and I get financial aid, I'm really wanting to just get these certificates. Like, I'm really wanting to, like, if I get this certificate, I just want to say that I want to be able to have this certification just because I know it's good for me, and I know it's good for my biological mother and immediate family. Even though I am not participating in taking care of my mother or have been permitted, it will be from a distance of, you know, Kenneth being in charge of my mother and their community, and Sarah and their team be in charge of my mother and what her personal finances, and putting Frankie in charge of this and all this other stuff. I know when I was younger, if I was 15 years old and I was talking to my mother, that later in life I was going to be a CNA, and I just got a CNA certification, or a patient care technician, or a home aid technician, my mother would be absolutely proud and happy that she had a second option, that she had one of her sons that was trained, so that she could be that much more a little bit comfortable. Now, my mother used to always tell me when I was a kid, she goes, I'm never going to be in a nursing home. I want to make sure that I'm going to get a nice lady from Mexico. She always said this, I'm going to get a nice, you know, poor lady from Mexico, and she's going to take care of me, you know, because my mother always knew, like from the very beginning. See, these are personal things that there's no way to evaluate, and there's no way to provide the evidence and truth by videotape. And that is, my mother, she didn't trust Frankie necessarily, because you got to keep in mind the way that Frankie behaved when he helped put my dad in a nursing home was, my mom understood that, but understood that he could probably turn the belts on her, because remember what Frankie went through. Now, I remember the community and Kenneth, who's in charge over my mother, and Sarah and their team, even the people in this house in charge of my mother, and whoever else wants to take charge, the police and all these other people. There's nothing that I can do. It's almost like I hear my mother crying for me, like crying, because there was all these conversations and there's no way that I can verify it. Like, I was speaking to Lindsay Wessinger, who has been ripping my mother's asshole in half, and my deceased little sister, ripping her ass in half, making sure that Lindsay Wessinger and her identical twin totally dominate me and my mother and speak on behalf of my mother's illness and tragic life, and say who's going to get the money, who's going to take charge. She's the one that feels compassion, and number one, her and her lesbian community and all this other shit is making sure that Kenneth gets all the forgiveness and creams off of it, and gets all the benefits, all the fucking benefits. You don't understand how of a worthless pig this son of a bitch is, and what this motherfucker did. And because Lindsay Wessinger, who I've been speaking, has been fooling me, and I'm having this conversation, it's very difficult. I don't even think her son died. I don't think her son died. I think she's lying. But she's been ripping my mother's asshole in half. I'm telling you, just bending my mother over, putting her dildo on, and being a lesbian, just fucking my mother. I mean, just fuck you. I don't care. I'm going to rip your ass in half, and I'm taking Hector away, and I'm going to poison Hector. This is about Keynote and the lesbian and gay community. I'm going to get what the fuck I want. I'm in control now. I'm going to poison you. This is the attitude of what this person, every deliverance of every word is that of spewing dark poison. And it's soothed by the submission that I'm being placed in, to think that this person actually gives a shit about my life. And I'm pretending like this person gives a shit, and they don't. They're more preoccupied with other things. I do believe that this person does care partially, but this is not. This is an exchange. This is what this is. I am the head runner of my mother's family, and everything that could speak on behalf of my mother, because I was there. I was part of that immediate family. They have to make sure Frankie gets placed the head charge and poisons everything. And I know how Frankie is. You know, I hate to be able to talk bad about him because of what he went through. But it is very frustrating when people in the household I live in and on a bus attack me, claiming Frankie's in charge, and training me to believe that emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And that is not what the situation. Frankie, not only is Frankie gay, married to a transgender, but he doesn't understand. Frankie is not going to give a fuck. He is going to poison the shit out of the situation. And Lizzie Wessinger and these other people, they need someone like that in order to take control over my mother even more and poison the situation. Because the last thing that they want is a straight guy that was one of her sons be appointed charge and to help my mother and tell the story what had happened, as opposed to a gay dude, one of the gay members. One of the gay members, Julian's gay, Marco's gay, his twins are gay, they're all gay. And they're in their own circle. That circle is with entirely supporting Kenneth and feeling compassion and sorry for this fucking filthy pig. Total strangers are showing up in this house, and people, and anywhere I go, defending Kenneth, behaving like Kenneth. The police officers just wrote some tickets next to some individual that was next to me to threaten me and use fear. They do many different things, and they look at me to make shout-out things like he did over there. Yeah, you're going to have to go to the courthouse. And it is to threaten me. Now, one of the guys who said that was Mexican and was a cop, and you don't even understand this story because this is all homosexuality, because guess who's gay over there too? Oh, that's right, Nick's, what is it, Richard Martinez? So, even though this has nothing, I don't know, you know, hopefully he's doing good for himself, but what I say that is you don't understand. The patriotic movement is coming from these other people, and it never stops. But before I get into any of this discussion, I like to be able to know that I got the certification and I'm not even going to do the career. It'll be a token for my mother that if she has me, if she has someone that was a part of that circle when Frankie was getting raped, when she was having had sex with my dad, when she was being slapped around by Diana Rivera and all the people that were spitting on her and slapping her around and telling her what to do. For all the people, all the time Sarah Cooper and Ken, you know, were disgusting to my mother, that's fine. You got your glory, but I'm not going to think about it. I just like to know that, hey Mom, I don't even do this for a living, but I did get trained. I did take these classes. I'm a certified CNA. I'm a certified technician. I'm a certified, you know, even an electrocardiographia technician. They learn a lot of other stuff other than just that. You know, there's a lot of probably other material that'd be very useful. But I think that would be very, very benefiting, because not only will it help my health, but it would also help my mother. Me being placed on the outside, and they're Kenneth in control and his gay community team, I cannot do anything about that. I can never even make enough videos about what her triplet sisters are doing to my mother, ripping my mother's ass, you know, her story and everything that had happened. This is all to benefit Sarah and feel sorry for Ken and Kenneth at the radio station at 97.9 The Beat, and feel sorry for Sarah and feel sorry for Michelle and all those scum individuals that my mother did not like. You know, it's hard. I can't even explain, because if you switch places with me, you probably want to go to a gun store and pick up a gun and wait for this motherfucker to walk through the door to shoot his ass. You'd be so fucking pissed off that someone could do that to your mother, do that to your dad, and think that you're going to take some control by having these people come at you. But there's nothing. Violence isn't going to work. They already stole everything. Everything's going to be there. They're going to put the Jesus, and if Jesus doesn't work for them, and they show you which book it does in psychology, then they'll pull out another book. But it's always in their charge. But for me, now I took a bunch of HIV and AIDS tests, and I came up with all sexual activity, diseases to be cleared and good. I can be sexual activity with a heterosexual female, even though they have extracted all females. So common sense tells me that I'm probably secretly HIV positive. They're not telling me. But I like to know, hey, I got a CNA, Mom. You know what? You don't need my help. You got Kenneth to love you. He cared for you with all his gays. You know, he's gonna be hip hop. He's white. He's half white. He's Mexican, and he just knows how to hit with true love. And he was there more than you were. And at this point in my life, I think it'd be great that I have a certificate that if you ever wanted me to share the love that I had for you as a child, that was half as good as Sarah and Kenneth Cooper, you know, DJ Keno, then I'm more than welcome to sit outside and, hey, I'm here to help you, and I'm still your son. And I remember when you cried. I remember whenever we were upset at each other at times. And I remember the stories and the horrific things that I did not get credit for and will never be credited for, and it is too late. I know I went through a disease, and Sarah and Kenneth got the credit, and so did the hospital and all these other people, but I want to be able to know that I'm reaching out for your mom. The love that I think, hey, you know, this is something that will be good. This will be good. I'm not, if my mother is, you know, she's in a debilitating mental state, that's fine. I'm not in control. They're in control. The people that are manipulating the triplets and manipulated her all these years, she's not going to tell you the story. But I think that would be important to say that, you know, I'm here to give my opinion, but there's nothing that I can do. They are doing in all their efforts to make sure Frankie gets placed in charge. They're doing you don't understand. This is a full-blown homosexual fucking war. This is the gays versus the straights. Period. And it is me against Frankie, Marco, and Jillian. And then they're twins. Gays. Because everywhere I go on the bus, walk into a house, a grocery store, somebody attacks me in the defense of Frankie and the horrific things. They don't even know the fucking story. They don't care. They want to put gay leader in charge so that it's a gay intention, energy, and mindset that infuses into a straight woman to say, oh, it doesn't matter if you're gay or straight. No, it fucking matters 100,000%. Now, my mother suffered tremendously, and it aches. It aches to not understand that I'm speaking to this person, Lindsay Wessinger, you know, shitting myself, basically, talking to this person, because that's ultimately what's going to happen, is how it's just ripping my mother's, like all the horrific shit that my mother went through, it's on this dinner table, and they start poisoning me. They're not there for any good. They're there for lesbian and gays. This is for the gays. Gays, if it wasn't for the prejudice movement over here, it's going to be for this prejudice movement. No, if it wasn't for this cop right over here trying to defend Richard Bernstein, and I don't want anything to do with it. I don't bring it up. They start playing patriotic, I want to be this person, and then they'll come at me in the defense of wanting to start a war because of that person. And they don't know the story. They don't care. They'll come at me for it. Even though if I don't want to talk about it, they'll use that power. Just like I've had 100 people come at me because I saw President Barack Obama, and they think they're President Barack Obama, and then they attacked me, like with the energy and vibe and intentions. They're the President of the United States, and they just spit whenever they want and do whatever the fuck they want. This is President Barack Obama. He's President of the United States. He's ready for an atomic bomb when needed. And they have that mindset. I don't even know who this is. I mean, it'll be a guy walking into a grocery store I'd never seen before. You know, it's crazy. It's like people impersonate, you know, it's like transgenders. They think they're women and they're not. And people that think they're Michael Jackson and they dress like Michael Jackson and they become Michael Jackson and yet they're not Michael Jackson. But as far as these go, I think it'd be fun, somewhat fun to learn. Who knows? Maybe I can get a CNA license. and get a EKG license. And if I get an EKG, it's not even a license; it's a certificate. If I can get, if it's a job trade, just like kind of like a job trade. If I can get an electrocardiograph technician and a CNA, then I'll do this for a living, but I'll have a CNA. Who knows? But that's just kind of what's going on right now. Okay, so I think that this is going to be very important. I'm telling you, like, I could tell you this right now. I personally, I don't think I could work in a nursing home in CNA. I've been through too much shit. I think it'd be humbling again, but I don't think that I could be the bad. I don't think that I could deal with it like other people. Like, walking into a room and finding somebody dead, and having everything that's happened to me, who knows? Maybe I could, but or like I've seen some videos making me pass gas all the time. Like walking into a room and having to pick up people's feces day to day. I mean, like I hear some of these stories are pretty bad, but it's a broad range. Now there's CNAs that it's a broad range, but it'll allow me to work in many facets of many different parts and places and more opportunity. I don't even know what day and age people get paid anymore, because when I was working when I was like 20, in my early 20s, if you made $12 an hour, man, you were somewhat like, you were just kind of, you were making it, like not, you were just making it. You had like $100. Me, I always believed, and still to even just a couple of years ago, if you got paid $19 an hour or $21 an hour, you were made to buy a house that cost $350,000. Making $21 an hour as a CNA, what the heck? Like, I just heard this lady talk about, this person was getting paid $17 an hour and they were getting underpaid. And I was like, drastically underpaid, $17 an hour? I was like, whoa. I mean, that person was probably making like $20 an hour, $21 an hour as a CNA. That's making $20 to $21 an hour. That's like the equivalent of, what is that, like $45,000, $50,000, a year? That's a lot of money. That's a whole lot of money. So, anyway, I don't necessarily think I could. Maybe I can get a part-time. I think I could do part-time. Where if I got paid $20 an hour, and because I got a GED, it's brand new and fresh. It's not an old, so they know that the material that since I just earned my GED, the material that I learned is fresh in my mind. Maybe not fresh because I'm young, but fresh in my mind. So that would help me increase the possibility of employment. They can employ me so I can work. And they also have, the ability for me to, I forgot what I was thinking of. I was going to say, oh yeah, I can work part-time, so I think I could do that. $20 an hour, part-time. I could do that. It's really good money. I'm on disability insurance. I can go there for 4 hours a day, go to a local nursing home or a local, who knows, a CNA can necessarily, be at a, I don't think they have child daycare. I don't think they have anything like that. Maybe they do, but I don't think I would want to work in a place like that anyway. But, it can be a broad range of places. Physical therapist, they could probably have like, CNA just kind of lingering around somewhere or something like that. I still have to do more research in it. There's private homes, where very wealthy people, they call a CNA, and they show up 4 hours a day. The family's already there, but they just want somebody to show up and keep them company, a couple of hours a day, and get paid really well. That's an option too. There are nurses that graduate from universities and they work for private homes. We're very wealthy people. They're super wealthy. the very wealthy people that have enough to pay a nurse, you know, $200,000 a year starting price, you know, it's just like I watched this video of the Dallas Cowboys, Deion Sanders. This guy had his own personal nurse show up to his house. You know, they have so much money, they're able to pay for that. So, so I think that this would be a great option, not just for me, but it'd be a great option. I'm telling you right now, I couldn't do CNA for 20 years. Couldn't do it. I tell you that's for sure. I couldn't do CNA working that. I couldn't do that for 20 years. I won't be alive probably 20 years. You know, but I couldn't do that. At 42 years old, I have to have a different outlook and the reality of it. But I think this would be really good. Me work part-time, even if I got a different job. Let's say I got a job, I don't know, as a janitor, right, at a hospital. And I didn't want to necessarily work as a CNA, but I had a CNA certificate. Do you think that someone who had a CNA certificate, who was doing an easy job with a little corner office in a hospital, would likely to be hired who had a CNA to work as a janitor and they applied for it, or someone who just applied to be a janitor and didn't have a CNA and works in a hospital? Hey, there's benefits and there's more outcomes and possibilities. You know, I couldn't do it. You know, if I had ever in my lifetime, I really believe, if I was in the right circumstances, I know I could, because I would have done everything in my life, would have been breathing, reading, you know, exercising, nurse, everything, medicate, everything. Nothing I do, and I know I could, but it all got taken away. They know how to put me down. They know what the president, Barack Obama, and his president has already ordered against my life. I don't have any more choices anymore. I do as they tell me and what his people tell me and what they order me and train me to do, and they just beat me. So I personally believe that it feels like somebody just shot me and it hurt. I just feel like they shot me just right here. But I think it'd be great. You know, I understand that my mother has a lot of money. There's $125,000 of real estate value that happened in her house, and in my dad's house, the money disappeared, the house disappeared. I didn't know. I could tell you there's a broad range of people right now manipulating and screwing my mother over, and I can't give their names right now, and I know who they are. I think they're caring, but I can't say about what's going on because Lindsay Wessinger and a few other people making too many threats. And the more that I release information, the more they come at me and threaten me to take more harness and control, especially when it comes around to involvement of my mother. They're using very dark psychology. And when somebody's beating the shit out of me with an electronic device, then it becomes almost impossible to think I even belong to my mother at all. My mother, I have not seen my mother. I have not seen my mother in a very long time. Very long time. I have no communication with my mother. I have only spoken to her triplet sisters, which are my aunts, for a number of large years. I have no communication. And what they're doing with the psychologists is some of the most darkest shit you could ever imagine. Imagine growing up with a single mother your whole life and all of a sudden this happens. Imagine growing up with a single mother and you have two triplets. Your triplet aunts that are identical show up into the picture, and then they look exactly, they're identical like your mother, and then they take control. And they did this on purpose. I can tell you this, they are absolutely incompetent to be able to have any fair defense on behalf of my mother. Their behavior, some of the stuff that I've seen in looks chaotic to me, in my opinion. But I am not in control. I have to let it be because they're not letting me hire lawyers. I'm lucky not to be digging in a trash can for food. They're always beating me with electronic devices. I've been reduced to only be able to do just a number of things in life now. So I have to let it go. I have to let that be and let them steal whatever they want and poison the shit out of the situation, because Lindsay Wessinger and whoever it is I'm speaking to this phone call with, and all the people around me that are recording me and listening to me, it's fucking crazy. There's so many people attacking me in the defense of Kenneth Cooper and making him do a hero and playing acting roles in front of me, like when I get on the bus knowing I'm going to go to the cemetery where near my dad is buried, and they start following me and they start playing acting roles. It's very difficult. It's so fucking stressful. It's so stressful that you can't even imagine the fucking level of stress. I could tell you this, everything that my mother's twins are doing, and they're telling her with the glasses, from the top to the toenails, to the hair on my feet, to the bottoms of my heels, to the surface of my hands, to the eyelids of my eyes, to the back of my brain, to my spinal cord, to my palms of my hands, to my elbows, watches, to my calves, everything, to the gritty detail. It is to train me that someone is going to give me the DJ contract and music career is the only choice, if and ands and what's I was supposed to do and was going to do, because that's what you're going to get trained. And then everything else is what is going to Hector do when he feels guilty when he walked away. Okay, now do this psychology, dark psychology on him. Okay, so then if Hector thinks he's just going to get angry because he can't have sex with girls, we infected him and raped him, okay, now do this psychology on him, Celestine. So they get her sisters to do all this dark behavior, and it's fucking crazy. It's very dark, very sick, because they're gutting out my sister who died. It is, let me tell you, they want Lindsay Wessinger and the people that are in this team that's doing this to my mother and me. They're doing this, and that is a gold mine, because they needed her to be as stupid as they can get her to then work their chess pieces. 100%. Everybody in this house needs her to be stupid and worthless, so they can say and start applying their threats and control over my mother. There's $175,000 that was all together with the house, my dad's death, and the $50,000 that was in his bank account. And these people are coming for it. There's an Asian guy over here, this other guy, Jerry, everybody in the fucking, when I get on the bus, they're all coming for the fucking money. They're all coming for fucking control. I say this because they know how to put their threats whenever they want to. And you haven't been put in those situations, but you'll know very quickly. If I took a camera with me and I showed you, you know when to shut the fuck up and not say anything and just put your head down. Remember, they're in control of my mother, and they put Frankie in charge, and Frankie's the one that saved her, because Kenneth is the one that really protected my mother, and it was a hero. And you believe it. He's the American hero. It was Kenneth Cooper, and you're going to feel sorry for him, and he's going to hang out, and we're going to be DJs again. And then Lizzie Wessinger just threatened me just a couple of days ago, says, yeah, and I promise you this, it's not going to be weird, and like threatening me, because they're already preparing to, oh, you're going to hang out with him. It's just he's gay, transgender, he was a real man. It's just you feel his emotions dickless. Oh, it's just he's a small person. He's like a kid. Oh, see your cool hip hop. And that's all they're doing. Don't understand that a lot of men would have gotten a fucking handgun and wait for this motherfucker to go through to shoot his ass for somebody do this shit to your mother. You want to play poison shit? You know, like, it is unbelievable, and it is the gay community and him. Yesterday I'm walking home, there's somebody starts coming, oh, what's up, hip-hop? Like I even know there's some Asian guy, and he's pretending to be Cubert, right, because he's going to do the education bullshit gift away, and then you walk down, and it's for hip-hop. Oh, but then it's a tragedy now. But I'd rather just not talk about it. I'd rather just not, and it makes me mad, because this is what my mother's twins are doing. They don't give a shit about the story, about what had happened, okay? Look, I can feel them right now shooting me right now. This guy, Jerry, who is trying to play himself like Ken Cooper, and the guy that raped my mother, he just started yelling on the phone, and I heard the vibrations into my chest and heart. Now, this is what they're doing to me. You can't see this on camera, but I'm telling you, this is what they're doing to me. This is what this pig. Now, keep in mind, my mother experienced horrific things. Like, let me tell you, my mother, this is something that's crucially important that may have to make a whole video on this. When I was a kid, this is what I just found out. Anyway, look, he's going to electrocute me to tell me he's in charge. So you feel it, they just turn it up a little bit. Look. They just turn it up a little bit. Yeah, and I told you, didn't I? And I said this. And they'll turn it, and you can feel the vibration shoot you. And they just turn it up. This is what they're doing. Anyway, this is the level of control they have over me, but when I was a kid, my mother wanted to touch the child and care, but she wasn't allowed to. And even before this little girl started getting abused by the caretaker, it doesn't change anything, because before that happened, the very first few days, few weeks, it was the first few months that my mother, I don't even know where this little girl was found. I don't know if they found her in a trash can. You know where I think they found her at a fire department. I think my mother may have abandoned the child at a fire department. I don't know where this baby came from. I don't know where this child was. My mother, I don't know, threw it away because she didn't want the baby. I know it sounds horrific because that's what women do in really bad situations before Kenneth Cooper shows up to be a protector and hero, and they all make him into a hero, and he gets good emotions because he feels sorry for transgender because Patricia's dead now, and then he gets emotions, understanding, credit for that. That's what women do. So, in really bad situations. So I think it's important that, because Ivan was there in front of me, and I remember we were sitting on the porch, and my mother looked at this little girl just for a second, and she just understood, there's nothing that I can do for you, and just look, and she, I don't know, it was kind of disgusted, but I don't want to say disgusted. She had to just shrug away. It wasn't necessarily disgusted, and me and Ivan we stood kind of there quiet, and I looked at him, and he said something to me. He goes, "I don't think your mother cares," and he said it in a way that was compassion, empathy. And he goes, this is what he did. He was sitting down like this, we're toys, and he goes, I don't think your mother cares. And he goes sort of that expression, and I looked, and I was and I don't know why he said that, because he never tells me that this is my sister, not once. And I think it's important because, my mother was kind of oh, she's taken care of, she's fine over there. And I recall that when my mother, the little girl, within about a year, she started to get hit. She would grab the belt and hit this little girl, and so did David. Ivan was on the front porch with me when we saw this little girl get hit. And let me tell you, if they asked Ivan, I bet you Ivan has a long list of stories of, if you think that I saw this little girl get hit who can't walk on her own with the belt, imagine what he saw in that house, where she maybe occasionally got hit with the belt. She's laying on the ground, just lifeless, in her own shit. But you're going to talk about Kenneth. Remember, he's transgender community support. Remember who President Barack Obama is, transgender energy. You know what that is, and feel sorry. But anyway, so I think it's important, because it's very disturbing. I do not like dealing with this. This is a child. I feel like I'm dealing. I feel like I'm having to resurface and mourn about my dead sister. I have a sister that's just died again, and it's being taunted to me in the support of Sarah and Kenneth Cooper and for the gay community for the profitable exchange, because all they want to do is throw that dead chicken and throw that right on my table and use that as an exchange of emotion to then make sure who gets the glory in a forgiveness story. Oh, but we messed your life up when we stole it. We gave you Patricia. Now look, use this emotion. You see how that ticket right there worked? That was a police department ticket. And so they use these sick methods, very gross sick methods on me. But that's exactly what they do. But you got to understand that my mother did not hug this child, never kissed this child, never wanted to. She didn't. I watched her expressions all the time. How she interacted with his child. I was there. Frankie was locked up in his room. He didn't do anything. He's going to tell you he did. He's bullshitting. Because remember, the gay community wants to put him in charge, and then he's going to want to be masculine because he has kids now. Oh, wait, hold on, wait. They know what the fuck they're doing. The president is ordering, he's scumming that little girl. That's what he's doing. I don't want to talk about her. She died a long time ago, and I'm not throwing her away, because that is always a sense of a sister that is deceased. And now I have to have the responsibility, because they're throwing that emotional garbage on me for an exchange, just like Jerry is. Jerry is continuously, since I've been here, and so are other people, have continued mutilated this little girl. And so when I go on the bus, somebody else wants to start shit about it. And they do this in exchange for something else. That's their dinner table. And they know what they're doing. That is the intention of what they want to do. That's what their intentions are. It's not for, I'm just sitting here just doing this. No, that's what your intentions are, and you know what you're trying to interpret. You're talking about my dead sister, and I want you to stop. You're mutilating it, and you're pissing me off, and I then have to say shit that I don't want to fucking say. And they're doing this because that's just nothing but a bag of fucking meat and bones for his dinner table. And it's called psychology bullshit, and I can't do anything about it because every these other people are doing about it. I don't like to deal with any of this. When the resting place happens, it'll be a resting place, a ceremony for Kenneth and Madison and their Cooper family. It'll happen then. I don't want to be barbecued all the way there, and writing on an emotional, horrific. I get these visions that it's like her carcass is just sitting there with her ribs open, just sitting there, and Jerry and this Korean fucker over here and these other people are just picking at her dead eyes and body and ripping a little piece of meat out and being like, just fucking vultures. They're just the fucking vultures flying around in circles looking for the dead, see what carcass they can eat. And I don't like to play that game. That is a horrific thing to be talking about a dead little girl that was wearing a princess outfit, that was shitting and pissing herself, had no choices in life. We're supposed to be spiritual people here, believe in Jesus, not mutilated for an exchange. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to talk about it. And it's very awful. It's a very bad situation because my mother's behavior and the other people that were involved, I don't even want to say other shit because it doesn't even matter. Nobody's listening. Nobody cares. But what I can tell you, some more information on, is that my mother said some really bad shit. And it was in reference to that little girl that was very disturbing. And I remember my mother saying, well, why do he goes, when your dad dies, why are you going to want to go over there? There's nothing but just a bag of bones. And I remember thinking of this little girl, and I'm like, even if this isn't your sister, shouldn't this show you some compassion in life to not think that way? Because you're seeing it physically on a daily basis, not knowing that that was my sister or my mother's daughter. And my mother said, sí, más feliz allí, ¿qué vas a hacer? Vas a ir allí, al final más es un carne con huesitos allí. Y yo, ya se fue, ya se murió. Okay, you know. You see that make me pass gas. They're pushing the air out of my body. I would hear my mother say this, and I remember having and it wasn't like an argument. She like was just there, and I remember sitting on a couch, and her saying in this card casually, and I know she got bothered because it referenced also her daughter, because she was like, "Oh, I don't care," you know, like, and that is not a healthy mindset. And so when you get her twins to clean up and do these horrific things, now I'm not the professional, but this is always for your profitable gain, because you know that all these gay friends that I had are all against me and they're all shitting on me. This is for who gets the profitable gain most and who gets the least benefits, and it's not going to be cash and money. That's what the highest value of purity of what they're going to cut me down on. But it's just nature of life, and I just got the better of life, and if you just got what you got, well, I'm going to take that away from you. We fucked you over. And I can't go into huge stories about this, but I have to be on my knees and do as much positivity as I can, and just focus on that, because the table's all theirs, and but the psychologists don't give a goddamn fuck either. I know what's going on, and I know a lot of the deep penetrating things that's going on, and there's nothing that I can do. There's nothing, and nothing I can say, and then, let alone some more shit that I don't even want to talk on camera, because you're just going to antagonize me anyway about it, and it doesn't even matter. You're going to steal the next thing you fucking want and readjust it for some bullshit, but ultimately we're all going to die. But they're having me pay the price tag. But, so it's very difficult, because like, how my mother interacted with this, how you want to feel sorry for Sarah Cooper, because she's 85 years old now. She's laughing at my dad's funeral. She knows about this. I don't know who Hollywood showed up, if any. I don't care anything about that. You know, I can't say this enough. Hollywood is the most disgusting, toxic world. It is filled with disgusting shit there. They're so envious and parasitical. If you thought you also found vultures about what's going on, no, that's what they do over there. They're fucking vultures. And they have no disregard. It is a full racist. It is a full war. Who gets the supremacy and who did. And they sit right there. And they don't give up that seat for nobody. And when they finally leave that seat, they give it to who they want to give it to. And there's only a few remaining seats there. Not to worry about that kind of crap and junk. But it is very difficult, because, you know, I have to ignore an existence of part of my mother that these psychologists and nobody ever listened to me. Like, my mother was crying for nothing. So you can go and rip my mother's asshole in half again repeatedly every time I talk to you or anyone else, and there's nothing I can do, and I'm the only voice my mother ever had. And I'm 42 years old. My mother's now like 65, 62 years old. What good ever happened from this? That resolved to say, you're not going to take any youth more away or time. I haven't seen my mother in 5 years. Haven't heard from my mother in 5 fucking years, since I was 37, since I took that picture that I have of my diploma. And that picture was when I was 37 years old. 38 to 37 years old. I haven't seen my mother in 4 or 5 years. So, I think it's important, you know, that, you know, I don't want it to be brought up. We're old now. She's been deceased for a long time, but this is nothing but a carcass for profitable gain. That's all that they're doing this for. They want to exchange her dead body and picking at the emotions of it for Kenneth Cooper's exchange and Sarah's and the gay community and transgender Patricia. That's all this is about and was. And my mother's twins are then emotional mothers who, they don't even have their own kids, to my understanding, that they're emotional, being parasitical then as well for the situation, because they know their low levels of intelligence and their IQ levels, and they know their circumstances, and they put them there. So they follow all the instructions they tell her in her glasses and tell her exactly what to do. Now, something I don't like talking about, because that's what they're telling my mother's twins to do. They're ripping the carcass in front of me repeatedly and mutilating it, and I get bothered by it because they just keep doing that. And they've already trained them to now have them in every exchange of word and energy and vocal and mind thought with the intention of defending these fucking worthless pigs and making them the heroes and exchanging the emotions so it benefits them. Only them and the president. I don't want nothing to do with this. And this, what they're telling him to do. Like, for an example, no one knows about this. I've never shared this until one of her twins did this. And this is one of the saddest, this is probably one of the saddest stories of this little girl being thrown in a trash can, right? Just thrown in a dumpster. Oh, we know hip-hop station, you know, feel sorry for Kenneth. Get your gays, come at me, feel sorry, this is Kenneth, police officer, this is gays, transgender, and this is all this is about. So, what happens is, when I was a little kid, when I was younger, this little girl, I don't even know, Miranda, Marissa, whatever her name is, she used to always do this, like, kind of do this. She'd always look at her hands, but she would always do this. And it was one of the saddest things you could ever see, because I remember being a kid. And I thought, the first few times, I thought, well, it's just kind of hand movement she does. And I noticed she did that a whole bunch. And she would put her head down like this, like she didn't want to be shamed and people looking at her. And I was thinking about this, and I thought, maybe it was because she was partially blind. Because the sunlight was bothering her, and she had to find a way to sort of alleviate it. Or she was trying to do this and trying to help her eyes because they were bothering her. Because I remember her doing this a lot. You know, kind of like in shame. And I remember her doing that a couple of times, walking and seeing her. And I remember thinking to myself, like, she didn't want people to look at her in shame and disgusted like that. That she had emotions. And I remember being a kid thinking, like, somehow she knows that she's stuck in her body. And she does the last effort to stop scumming me. You know, because I'm ugly. And because I'm the way that I am. Stop scumming me. Now, the President of the United States is going to scum her by saying, this is what the military does. You see how military, you see how, that's how American does it. And that's what she used to do. I just heard this guy over here hit the wall with, it bothered me, but she used to do that a lot. I heard this guy hit the wall and he'd turn it up, and I could feel the vibrations. It's like a commotion to move. But I used to see this girl, and she would always do that. She would she would always go like this, like, do kind of that. Besides her seeing her doing this, and then she would go. And I was thinking that maybe she was kind of like she didn't want sunlight, like almost kind of to help, but I would see her kind of go look like this, but it was more late in the day. But I don't know, I don't know if she was colorblind. I don't know if she was totally blind. Nobody knows. I'm sure the doctors could partially tell, but I don't know if that bothered her in any kind of way. You never know because she was very sick. But I remember thinking that when I was a kid, and I seen her do that when she was walking, kind of picking up her hands like this, and she like, stop scumming me because you're disgusting, because I'm deformed and disgusting. And so President Barack Obama deserves that. He deserves, because he fixed her for transgender energy and transgender soul exchange for Kenneth and Sarah Cooper and Kenneth for the military and the American flag. Anyway, especially for the gays, that's a good token for the gays, right? Because you feel transgender, your daughter, and then she, they feel blossoms, just like your daughter with a banana dick, right? Tell you American flag, for this one. It was very sad. Yeah, I remember that. I remember thinking of that myself, and I remember feeling sad. I remember feeling sad, like she had no choice but to be humiliated and discarded. She couldn't do anything about it. You see how Kenneth's a loving person and changed person, and he gets emotional credit for that? As we're talking about DJ Keno, Kenneth Cooper and the Cooper family from Madison and Sarah Cooper. You see how that works? President Barack Obama does it again. State of Texas, George Bush. It's fucking fucked up, And I noticed that when I was sitting down at the table, my sister, she did this. And that's what she used to do. They wouldn't have known that unless there's videotape of her, of this little girl. They wouldn't have known that unless they talked to Ivan. Let me tell you, my mother never went over there just to stare at this little girl. My mother was kind of like withdrawn away. Like I'm telling you, there was never did she try to engage with this little girl. She didn't hug her. She didn't want to touch the child. And you're going to get Kenneth's love that really protected her, and Sarah Cooper, and then feel sorry, and then Lindsay Wessinger fix it for guess what color skin. Oh, it's just I had a good time over there. Oh, I'm Patricia Gardina for the exchange. But like I said, there is nothing that I can do about this, because there's nothing that I can do. Frankie had no existence of this little girl at all. Look, I have worked for Child Protective Services. There's boxes to the ceiling of horrific cases. Why does a dead child who didn't get a proper burial, or me being her own brother or mother or Frankie or Julian, show up to a funeral to give a proper burial or ceremony of some kind? I don't know why, but it didn't happen, okay? I don't know the story to that. It was just put it in a bag and throw it away. That's how it was. I don't know what the story. Maybe she was poisoned. Maybe my mother. I believe my mother was poisoned. People don't want to believe. I believe my mother was poisoned, and they made that's why the child came out possibly deformed. I think there's a high probability that could have happened. Now, one of the reasons that I think that it could have been natural causes is because when I saw Michaela, I sort of saw a little bit of my sister, who was very sick, who had Down syndrome. I know, that's how Keno gets down. Oh, he's just like one, yeah, you too, like one of us, yeah. Oh, just, I'll give you that emotion. Oh, you see what I gave you? That makes me the man. Oh, you get down like that. Down syndrome. Okay, so moving on. So, anyway, I see my sister, I see my sister with, Michaela. When I saw her, when I think about now, when I see my sister, I see Miranda or Marissa, whatever her name is. I can almost see that sort of her body shape, why I would think, because they had the same hair, but she had midnight black hair. Michaela's half white, half German, but um, you know, it's something that I really just disturbed about, because the less credit that my mother was willing to take for it and have to suffer for it, the more than you exchange the emotion for Sarah, feel sorry, sympathy for Sarah and Kenneth, and you use the people to do it. That's what you're doing. I believe that should be a healthy opening and closing ceremony. I work for Child Protective Services. There's a lot of kids that go through suffering. There's a lot of kids that, you know, I don't know what happened. But I just know that my mother was crying going to her sister who had a kidney transplant at Children's Medical Center. And when this happens, this little girl who is a real female, she's a real girl. Maybe she's a transgender. I don't even know. I'd be fucked up. Hyundai could surprise me with that with Barack Obama's message, a transgender movement for his daughter. She lives right over there. And there's you have a transgender that, whatever is there, Ceci in the hospital with Lupe, my grandma, my mother's crying, like emotion, and I know that there had to have been more. I remember looking at my mother as she was in tears and stressed. And I think they asked my mother, I think that's where it happened too. I think that's when we went to Children's Medical Center the first few times, and they asked my mother, how many kids do you have? And my mother didn't know how to communicate. She said, "Oh, I have 3, but one is this other city." So she really knows, you have to throw this child away to survive. You have to make sure Keynote come through Hip Hop Station, because forgiveness, and then you get old. At least I got a better life. I'm all about shooting and suicide. Oh, but it was Jesus Christ. That's how it come through. Jesus Christ. I'm gonna tell you how hip hop works. This is what they're doing. I don't like to play this game. I don't like to be a part of this. Is very nasty. And that's what they're doing. I just really believe there should be an opening and closing ceremony to let it pass. Her spirit is with Sarah Cooper. Sarah Cooper is the one engaged. You had your transgenders then train me to believe that energetically and mentally and emotionally, and keep doing that even when I stay stubborn that that's not right. You beat the shit out of me with electronic devices. So then we have a ceremony and close, and there you go. So when you go into the afterlife, then you could just think about that, and you get a free more coupon ticket to heaven, right? Because she's waiting for you over there. She ain't waiting for me. Is waiting for Kenneth, and he gets some of that spiritual energy. Oh, a bit, it's not sacrifice, but at least I have to have the conversation about it when I absolutely would never have this type of conversation with anybody. But as far as I have to say with any of this, it's a very tangling situation. My mother, there's no cameras. They just want to make up whatever they want. This is all they're doing. This is horrific. This isn't just a random child. This is the only biological direct sibling I had, and they're trying to put Frankie in charge and all this, and what Frankie went through. Nobody knows. I'm getting into a car. I'm waiting outside. My mother's getting her leg checked at the doctor's office just a couple days ago. The guy that nearly parks right in the same spot, my parking spot, they get somebody about the same age as Frankie, same clothes, something similar to his vibes, how Frankie behaves, and gets into the car and then tries to punk me out and he goes back into the hospital like he's going after my mother to help her, because then it appoints him in charge. And that's the training method that they do. They send their gays to do this shit. Because remember, that's not my mother, that's her triplet. I think it's very bad, her triplets, I'm sorry, but you weren't a part of that kid's life. That's not your daughter. I'm sure they feel emotion. That's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm saying. I'm sure they feel dreadful about the emotion of that. But that is not your child. That is not your child. you didn't give birth and you didn't ever see this girl alive. And you just show up into the picture and you just look exactly like my mother and you're the owner. And you get manipulated by your psychologist to then use what someone that looks like my mother to then use it as a weapon on me because you want to help Kenneth and Sarah. When I kept on saying, stop. You know, and then they blame it on me. Like, nobody cares anything about them. Nobody cares. Anything that I ever had to say in the past, they drain that out and there's no persecution. I can't go to a court and say, hey, look, let me show you the evidence. Let me show you the evidence. I got all this evidence right here. I could prove to you. I'm telling you the truth, Judge. Look, he's a murderer. He's a fucking filthy child molester. I got the evidence right here. I can prove it. Call the witness stand right now. There's no one that cares. No one. No one cares. And they're making up stories. So the best circumstances that I have been able to always feel in comfort is to leave this in Christ. Okay? Remember Buddha? Buddha looks in the same face shape as my sister. I know, I'm not saying, hey, I'm just saying she's always sitting in that style on the floor, on concrete. I'm just saying, this is what I saw. This is not how I'm going to relate it. Remember, they told me to stay away from that. I do believe in Jesus. I do believe in Jesus. I did grow up with the church. But when then that gets applied to it, then they use that book for something else. But I have to have my own personal belief and let it go the best way that I can so that I can help move forward. You know, and it becomes very entangling because you're dealing with the entanglement of a dead child that you're just picking at the dead corpse. That's all you're doing. And you're having a joyride and they're doing this at my job sites because I gave you the money. You think you felt emotions and you didn't. I'm trying to make a living for myself. I would never... Look, let me tell you something. I'm going to a nursing home, watching people get sick and die. My own father, total strangers. But you're telling me that I don't need to know anything about this dead little girl? You can have me live in a house at 16 years old all by myself, spending Christmas, Thanksgiving, all the holidays all by myself, my birthdays. I had to spend by myself when I'm 15 years old, 16 years old. But you can't say, hey, that's your sister right over there that is dangling like this, like she's on the cross, like Jesus, walking up and down the sidewalk in front of your house, that's wearing a princess outfit. That's your sister. Do you know her name? Oh, Kenneth Cooper. All the gays fight for it. You know, fix it. Fix it, transgender. Fix it, gays. Yeah, you got it this time because this is the persecution you're doing to me. You know what they do to me when I go to jail or prison? Not when I go, but to people, you know what they do to straight guys? There's a sausage fest. So if you're gay, you pick one out. Get you a boyfriend there. That's all that's there. It's worse for straight guys there. Much more worse. 10 times worse. Because there ain't no woman there. Natural women. It's something that I don't like to... I get very bothered by it. I just do not... I don't want to. I think... I know that this is just a profitable gain. I'm 42 years old. My mom's 62 years old. My mother is too old. The emotions, and now they're picking at whatever credibility they can get. Now they're picking at whatever credibility they can get to exchange it for an emotion for Kenneth. So that he starts hanging out with DJ hip hop and just cute or whatever it is they want it to happen. No. You know, this is for Patricia Gaydina. Patricia Gaydina. Oh, it's just like when I went to Richland College. Thank you, dead Patricia Gaydina, exchanging for energy for your dead sister. You did it for President Barack Obama's daughter. Thank you. Emotions. dead emotions for a transgender rape. You raped Hector for the attention on Michael Jackson. Thank you. It's just for Jesus Christ. Yeah, like, does this to my face when I'm at Richland College and this is a fucking student counselor. I promise to God, go pull up the cameras. When I went over there, listen and watch this person do this. Get the cameras. The cameras are right there. Go look and listen to what this person says. And I'm going there to ask for classes to find out more about classes. And this is what they're doing. Oh, that's not what you meant. No, that's what you're doing. Patricia Godina, pretty sure is not alive anymore. And this person is smiling and laughing and glorifying it. I have to leave this to Christ. And it's very heartbreaking when I think about seeing this girl, because she would do this. And I remember that's the saddest thing, is I remember her doing that because she didn't want people to see her deformity and her worthless life and the way that it looked. And I wasn't like, oh, you're worthless. But when you see somebody that deformed, with that Down syndrome, throwing up and shitting and just entirely needs someone else's care, and just a little kid wearing a princess outfit, it's sad. It's very sad. And it's very heartbreaking because, she was like, stop scumming me. I deserve life. And instead, you've been honoring Patricia Godina instead of anything else, because you raped a cancer patient, and that was me. So, I don't know, like I'm saying, I have to leave this to Jesus. I'm trying to go to school, and, I'm stressing because from top to bottom, this is all for Kenneth. Everything. That's all that they're doing. They're so ingenious in the things that they're doing, in the details. When I go and get on the bus, that is what the intentions are. You piece of shit motherfucker. Well, who has a disability? Disability energy. My sister, when she was dangling like Jesus Christ or Buddha? Or Kenneth, deformity of transgender? It's the same thing. Now exchange the emotions. You see, that's how that works. We all come and unite. You see, I mean, it's like, I don't want to deal with it. This is very disturbing to me. This little girl was getting some pretty nasty words being thrown at her by my own mother. And I'm trying to give my mother more credit, which none of her sons were able to do except for me, because I was the only. Frankie paid for me to be able to have a voice, because he's getting raped in his room all the time. He's in his room all the time, and Julian's too young to understand what the hell happened. And I'm trying to get some credibility and give this to my mother, not to myself. This girl has been deceased since I was like 14 years old. I don't even know how old this little girl was when she died. She was like 15 or 14 years old. This was like right after my dad's suicide. I was like 13 years old. This girl died somewhere between the ages of 14 to 15 years old. Maybe even 16. I don't even know how old this little girl was. There was not a proper burial, and she died and she got thrown away. And that was it. You're bringing up something only because you think you found the treasures to help Kenneth and the personal gain movement, and I don't like this. And you're doing it because of the president. That's what you're doing it for. You don't care. You just care enough to pick at a dead corpse like a vulture, like the death of a vulture, picking at a dead corpse. I don't like playing or being a part of this. You're doing this not to just someone, but something that isn't resolved, that is a sister of mine. It's very sad. If you saw this little girl, I remember her doing this, but they're going to exchange this to this. You see how that works in Navy SEAL? You see how that works in Navy American flag? President Barack Obama, yeah, that change those emotions and clean up for Ken and Sarah Cooper, because that's where you had Sarah Cooper doing a performance right over there when I went over to see my sister Michaela in Ted Cruz's office. I don't like being a part of this. You know, it bothers me a lot, but I cannot feel any more balanced and better than to have Jesus Christ and the Lord help me get through this, because nothing has been able to make me feel the comfort or well enough to nothing, not even a fraction of anything else, like nothing, like hope, like I nothing does. Michaela didn't know her, she's deceased. There's just a profitable gain. They're just picking at a dead horse for Kenneth. That's all they did for the gay movement and transgenders. That's all that they're doing it for. They don't care. God bless. I hope God and the Lord help.